Hello and welcome to IBM.TV Financial Fridays. I am the co-host and senior executive producer of IBM TV, Kimberly Calhoun. And today we have Ankit Kandawal from IBM TV in India. Hello.
Hi, Kim. How are you?
Ankit, so anyway, we have so much fun on IBM TV. You'll see us beaming in and out of various different shows. And this is one of our newer shows. And you know, Ankit, congrats, man. You've done a wonderful job on the branding of this. This is beautiful.
It's all credit to our team, basically.
Okay. It's a team effort. It is.
I think I have to beam out. There is some technical difficulty, so I will join you back again. In the meantime, you can invite the guest. There is some sound issue at my end, so I will just cross-check that.
So can you introduce our guests? The one guest, and I'll get the co-host in.
Yeah, so we'll invite Sabyasachi Sengupta from Netherlands. Hi, Sabyasachi, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing awesome. Welcome. I think Ankit has to beam out for a minute and fix something. But
him from California joining us. He's a part of IBM family, and he does the show Chess Without Borders, and also an expert on all our shows. And he's one of our geniuses on IBM TV. We are just waiting for a rating score of him. So that's about it.
Okay.
I'll join you.
Go ahead. Oops. Oh, what makes Jim a genius is he wrote a book for dummies. So, and I think he sold over 1 million copies, Chess for Dummies. But there's no dummy in chess. I will tell you that. I'm not a chess player myself, but
I love her anyways.
But I have had the pleasure of meeting a lot of some of the world's best chess players. But so tell me how to pronounce your name.
Call me Saby. I think that's what.
I love that. So I try to be correct with names. I suck at that. But Saby, where are you? Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what you do.
Let me start by a disclaimer. What many people think, my name Sabyasachi is not named after a Japanese sushi.
Okay.
Because a lot of people thought, sorry?
Point taken. I've worked with the Japanese for years, so that's what I thought. So
yes, I got that a lot. And then I shortened it to Saby. And I just couldn't escape the Japanese fate. They said, "Oh, Saby, it's like wasabi." So
wasabi.
It's very spicy. You must be very spicy.
Well, yeah, you have an hour to find that out.
So tell us a little bit about. I mean, you've definitely got a sense of humor, and that takes a sense of humor to be in business for yourself, or to be doing some of the things that we're doing. But share with us, wasabi. I'm gonna call you wasabi now.
I live in Amsterdam. You know, one of the most amazing cities in the world. I moved here in 2010 from India. To study here at the University of Amsterdam. I did my master's, and then I've been working for a leading Dutch bank for the last 9 years, 8.5, 9 years. Besides that, I'm also quite active and involved into the world of public speaking, which is my biggest passion. So it started off as a hobby. Some people, I don't know why, they told me that apparently I talk well, I have some degree of sense of humor, and it took me some convincing that I can make people laugh and stuff, and then it became a passion, and I started exploring that quite more actively. Started giving trainings, workshops, and over the last 1.5 years, I'm writing a book called "What's Your Plan B?" It's like the idea is if you have any professional adversity in your career, job, you lose your job, how can you prepare yourself today so that you can overcome those adversities?
Oh, that's beautiful. You know, it's not easy. People don't realize how hard it can be to get up there and do public speaking. Some people make it look so natural. And I was an engineer for 40 years. You would have never caught, and an entrepreneur. I hired people to do my public speaking. I'll do boardroom, courtrooms, classroom. But I'll never forget the day I met Nick Palaveda, who actually owned the first TV show I was on. And we were at a hackathon. I said, "Oh, you'll never catch me on that side of the camera, ever. I hire the people to do that for me." And I could just see him nodding his head. Yeah. And he invited me to be on his TV show when he lined up some pretty famous people that I was interested in talking to. Right. So that's how he lured me in.
Yeah.
And I did that. And the next thing I know, I was told that, did you know that people can make, anywhere from $30,000 to $100,000 a speaking engagement, and there are very few women? And I'm like, really? Now it's business, right?
Now the engineer kicks in.
Right, now it's business. Now we're talking business. And so they gave me some tips, but I never took classes. I heard you say you took some coaching on speaking.
Well, not really. I'm part of this public speaking social club called the Toastmasters.
Yeah.
And it's more, so I never got formally trained. It was more like we all give each other feedback, we coach each other, train each other. Sometimes I have trained people, along the way you also learn a lot of style and stuff. So it was always on the job learning. It was never a very serious learning, because I do believe it is not a skill that you can really learn in classroom. It's really, you have to, it's like fishing. You cannot learn fishing unless you actually go and fish.
Right. It's like you can't read a book on it.
Well, number
what
one
I would
fear
do,
for most people is public speaking.
Sorry.
Right.
That's the number one fear for most people is public speaking.
Or just being on TV or anything. And I can remember telling Nick, because we were at a PBS conference when I met him, you'll never catch me on that side of the camera. Boom. I'm in that side of the camera. You'll never catch me doing daily TV shows. I'm doing daily TV shows. But so never say never, right? But public speaking was, like, to me, the biggest fear. And there were so many things I would sit there and go, wow, if I were on stage, I would have said this, right? Because I am an expert in some areas. So I eventually, when I heard that you could get paid really well to talk, I was like, let me learn this. But what I would do, kind of like what you did with Toastmasters, I would go to a lot of speaking engagements and watch my favorite speakers. And I would take notes of how they paused, when they paused, how they turned, right? Yeah. And how they engaged, how many questions did they ask the audience? And then I would ask people who were on our TV show that were speakers. I would ask them, what is your biggest fear when you're on stage? I really like watching you speak. I'm not a stalker. I promise I'm not a stalker, but I do follow you. And, but I eventually learned something, get it over with, be well rehearsed, right? Yeah. Know your topic, get it over with and move on to the next one. Don't focus on your mistakes, right?
And to be fair, the audience is forgiving. I mean, if you forget something, most of the time I have seen is the audience is encouraging. Actually, last year I was going to Lithuania to give a speech on my book, and 4 days before that I fell down from the stairs and broke my ankle. Oh, and I was like, how do I go? So I texted the organizer, hey guys, I'm in the hospital, so I'm going to know if I can or cannot come, but just FYI. And then I told them, you know what, I'll come, but I had to be taken by a wheelchair, in a crutch. So it was a lot of, and I was quite nervous. 1 hour standing up on a podium and speaking with a crutch, it's not easy. But the audience was so amazing. It was actually one of the most amazing speaking experience, that the love, the energy, the support I got, the heroic welcome I got on stage, that, oh my God, with a crutch. So the thing is, what people do not realize is that it's okay to have, okay to do mistakes. It's okay to things to go wrong, because when you cover them up, or you do something to overcome those mistakes or those misfortunes that has happened, your audience loves you even more.
And you're right. In speaking engagements, the audiences are, I think, there to learn and encourage. And, the biggest thing that would happen to me all the time when I first got into speaking, every time I got to the podium, the mic would break. It was like I had this magnetic thing, and it would break. And sometimes in some speaking engagements, your time limit's up, that's it. So I learned what it taught me to do was project. Mm-hmm. When I spoke, right, to not worry about a mic, and I could project out into an auditorium, and I would just say, can you guys hear me back there? And if you can't, and then I just learned not to turn a light, right? And that changed a lot for me in the way I spoke and making sure I could project out. And it was always funny because my team would always say, "Wow, Kim, every time you get to the podium, it breaks. What are you doing?" I'm like, "I don't even touch it. I just walk up and it dies." But share with me about what you talk about, because a lot of times when you do a lot of public speaking, it's about a topic.
Yes.
Yeah. But before you start, I'd like to ask a question for both of you. How did you feel the first time, because there had to have been a first time that you were speaking in public? How did you feel? How did you, when you were walking to the podium? Both you and Kimberly. Kimberly, why don't you go first?
Yes.
How did you feel when you first walked to the podium the first time?
I was shaking so hard. And you're talking about an experienced businesswoman who's been in front of courtroom, boardroom, and I'm going up there to talk about something I'm passionate about and I want to sell it to the room, right? I was shaking so hard. And it was an exercise type thing like Toastmasters, but we were given 3 minutes, and which is very, very hard. And I botched it really, but the feedback was horrific. It was like they beat me up. And it was a room full of women on top of it. And I left there just, you would think, deflated, but instead I went back home and I rewrote it. And I came back the next day and I nailed it. So
good for you.
I was scared.
What about you, Saby? How about
at Toastmasters, the thing is, it warms you up because you do like various levels. So you also see a lot of known faces. But I can tell you one time, or the first time, or earlier times when I went outside that comfort zone to speak to a complete unknown audience, it was actually in India. It was TEDx in 2017. I was talking about networking, and it was nerve-wracking because I didn't know the city. I was flying in the night before. It was a room full of people. I didn't have no idea. It was nervous, and sometimes you're wearing a suit and everything, and the room is hot like hell.
Yes.
You're like, okay, I need to breathe. I need to really there's so many factors that come in, and then you put the microphone and the wire is dangling. I don't want this on the TEDx and stuff. Once you're on stage, nothing else matters. That red dot that was given to me, that was all I needed. And the thing is, once the audience starts interacting with you, they give you reactions, they laugh, you can feel the energy. You are in a zone. Like, I cannot ever relive any emotion that I felt while doing a speech, because I'm just like, I remember entering the stage, I remember exiting the stage. What happened and what I did is just blanked out.
That is so interesting. My first experience in public speaking, my preparation for public speaking was they made me do a presentation and they videotaped me. And I thought I had blown it. I thought I was a mess. And when they showed me the videotape, the only thing that I was doing was I was shifting my weight from one foot to the other a little too often. But otherwise it was fine. And I couldn't believe it. Because how I felt and what I looked like were two different, completely different things. And so that gave me the confidence. And so when I have the confidence in something, I could do it. And I was a nervous wreck because I had the dread of public speaking. I just couldn't do it. I was convinced I couldn't do it, but I could.
And you did. And
I do it a lot. And
it makes a big difference.
I don't get paid a lot, though. I don't know how you did it, Kimberly.
Well, hold on there. Whoa. It wasn't just overnight, right? I had some of the world's best coaches. Okay. So that in itself is good. I never had a promoter except for Nick Palaveda. But I had, he had promoters and coaches, and I always ask questions. How do you do this? Why? What should I do? But the number one thing, and I'm going to say Saby is doing exactly the right thing. And Jim, you already did it, and we're going to get Ankit to do it. God knows what it's going to turn out like in my life with Kim. But a book is your calling card.
I'm writing a book right now. You know that. Yes.
Yeah, every day. It's the diary.
Every day there's a chapter. Every day there's a page. I'm doing it. It's taking a lot of time because I'm involved with a lot of other ventures as well. But I would like to know, Sabyasachi, that what was the change after that TEDx talk in your life in terms of speaking and in terms of the professionalism? Because I think that is like 5 years ago, or
Yeah, no, that was 2017. It definitely people look at you also slightly differently when you say I've done a TEDx. It is a prestigious thing to have in your resume, and I think the response was very overwhelming because like I said, I was in India, and like I'm used to speaking in Netherlands and Europe a lot, where the audience reaction is very controlled. So people they'll come and tell you, good job, well done, we'll connect on LinkedIn. But in India, the way of showing affection is so overwhelming that they'll come and give you a hug. They want a picture with you. One guy said, "Can I take your autograph?" I'm like, if I faint, there is a hospital there. Please take me there. It was a really like a proper celebrity moment that I had. It was really enjoyable. It was very nice. But what I really like is even today that the audience member that were there, because it was at a university, they were students and now they are in professional careers and stuff. They sometimes reach out to me and saying, I remember that tip you gave about networking. I was able to apply it and it worked so well in my profession and stuff. So that is really nice. And also, sometimes it does happen because TEDx has such a big audience. Anybody can look it up on YouTube. Sometimes I do get messages from people, different parts, and they say, if you really were touched by that story, I spoke about my struggle as a child to get into a school because we didn't know enough the right people. So they resonated with that, and how they felt that that journey really moved them. Like even last week, there was a lady I connected on LinkedIn who was really praising me. And after 4 years or 3 years of giving the TEDx, you're also you've forgotten what you said, But when you at that point you said, I'm like, I need to go back and look at my own stuff, what I said in quite a while, So, but that's really rewarding. I think there is nothing more rewarding for a speaker than when your audience enjoys, remembers, and reminds you of your own content. That is just the biggest reward. I think that is something even money can't buy.
Great. A lot of people wanted to know, and they ask on IBM TV as well, on our personal emails as well, that when they think they're ready for that public talk, when is the right time to talk? Because a lot of people want to do TEDx, there are a lot of people preparing for it and all this stuff. But when is that time they think that, okay, I'm ready for that TEDx talk? And
I think I can give you my advice. You're ready already. If you think you want to do a TEDx, you're ready already. You just have to take the plunge. The good thing about TEDx is that generally there's a big screening process that goes through where they question you, they grill you a little on the topic. If the idea is unique or not, that ways the idea already gets a bit of metamorphosis, and then you also get coaches sometimes if they think you need one. So the process is there. The only thing that's stopping you from that TEDx stage is courage.
Okay. And also, in related to the same question, so a lot of people, after the TEDx talk, they follow up writing a book as well.
Yeah.
So is that what you're following in writing a book?
No, actually, I did speak about networking, but I'm writing about a different topic, Plan B. It's a topic that really touched me. I can tell you how I came to that idea. Yeah, it like the TEDx was 2017, and this was the book I've been writing since 2019.
Okay.
So that, and sometimes that's what happens. My boss, I call him my boss, Nick, he'll say the same thing, but he said, now that you're going on speaking tours, you need to write that book. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what book? And he goes, take it from your speech that you did, take the elements from the speech you did at NC State's graduation. He said, that was a rare moment for one, a woman to be able to speak there, and two, your elements were really good. Like, what you're trying to share. So I wrote my book in 6 weeks because my speaking engagement took off in 6 weeks. Yeah, right? Wow. But it's not a big book. It's easy read, right? I wanted it to be easy read, but it's not easy. That's why I tell people putting together a book is not easy. I put a disclaimer in it that it was not edited. The whole thing I did was to get it pushed out before I went on the speaking tour with Google. And I was like, what do I put into it? So it's very hard to come up with these books. You found a book that you're writing from passion. I had to put together a book, and it is from passion, but it was on a rush.
Yeah.
And, so it's a little different. I can't wait to read Ankit's book.
What was the book about, Kimberly?
My book?
Yes.
It's about the key
Just
element.
happens to have it.
I always have it. It's my one and only. I've got several other books, but it's Startup Masters. And it's the key elements to becoming actually starting up anything in your life, right? Not just a startup business, but if you're graduating, the key elements that you need. And I always talk about, have a purpose, right?
Absolutely.
And a plan and be prepared, right? So mostly it's the letter P's, but then you got to have passion in that purpose.
Absolutely.
Right? If you're going to sell it, you got to feel it. And this is what I tell you. You have got to feel that passion. And then after that, you have to pursue it, right? Don't just plan, prepare, and sit on it. You have to pursue it. And then the most important part, you want to reach prosperity, but sometimes you come into a situation where you run into walls, and what happens? You got to be persistent.
Yeah, agreed.
Don't ever give up. So I tried to keep it to 5 because my speech was, at graduation, your speech is kind of limited in short. But so I tried to keep 5 things that people can kind of remember. And then I put it in the book about the sacrifices we have to make sometimes, because there's so many things in life that you have to juggle, family and things like that. And so I managed to squeeze all of that in this book, and it's not edited. Somebody did actually read it. Hey, this is my boss. Nobody's going to read it, Kim. Just get it printed and get out there. Don't worry about anybody reading it. A lot of people read it. I get a lot of feedback because I put exercises in my book.
Yeah.
See, I've done things before teaching. So I ask people to do certain things. And if they do certain things, I know that they read the book. So the next thing I know, I get a phone call from someone who's very, very wealthy. And he said, I read your book. I go, what? And I didn't even really know this guy. He goes, I read it from cover to cover. It's great. You got some corrections to make. I'm going to send them to you, but I want to buy 100 of them.
Oh,
whoa. It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Because it was
You made it.
Well, he said that I didn't hold back. Like I didn't, paint rosy pictures. But let's talk about your book, because that's why you're here.
Yeah, because if you don't, even if you persevere, sometimes you have to have a plan B.
yes.
Right. You got exactly. Persistence. That's where plan B comes in place. Maybe your book could we could collaborate.
Awesome. Because we have the P's in common. So I think we can just combine all the P's.
Right. The P's and the B's but let's talk
make it a very persuasive book.
But you've got to have that plan B. That's something Nick and I'm glad. That's cool that you're writing it. Wow. Because Nick and I are going, okay, boss, what's plan B? Always. We always have a backup. So tell us a little bit, because this has got to be your passion that you're writing.
How I got the idea. I was actually going on a sabbatical on a 3 months tour to travel around the world to Hong Kong, Singapore, India, Maldives, Thailand. So I just before 1 week before I was leaving for the holiday, I bumped into an old colleague of mine, and she was very disturbed, I felt. So I jokingly said, why don't you go on a sabbatical like I'm doing? And she shared very personal stories. She said, well, my husband and me worked for this organization for the last 30 years, and he got fired last year. And now he's not old enough to get into pension and not young enough to, start something new. And he's worked all his life. And there's one thing is financial situation. And the other thing is also the constant negativity at home, because he has always worked all his life. And now he doesn't know how to cope with this situation. It's so different for him. So it's weird and it's negative. We don't know how to get out of the situation. So I said, well, I can help him if he needs help with his resume. I can give him some feedback. I can, help with the resume and stuff. Well, they said that, well, she hasn't even, he didn't even have a proper resume because he worked for one organization all his life.
Yeah.
That's, for me, was very that thought stayed with me. I was really like affected, like this can happen to all of us, because the thing is, we fail to realize one thing, that nothing lasts forever. Even prosperity doesn't last forever. So that was my trigger point, actually, that stayed with me through my holidays. And I think I took the decision to take this forward. First, I thought I'll do a speech on it, but then as I started reading about it, I thought it's just so much. It's a bit of an uncharted territory, because people find Plan B like you're not committed enough to a cause if you have a Plan B, which I think is a complete myth.
Right.
And yeah, I think the first idea of this book was the first letters of this book when I started writing was in the sunny, sun-kissed beaches of the Maldives. There I start conceptualize, you know what, I'm going to do this. And what I really had this amazing journey where in 2019, whenever I've interviewed a lot of people, around 25 people from different industry, sector, profession, who have seen adversity, and they have advice for how she should cope with it. And there were a lot of people who said, no, I never have a Plan B. I never have a Plan B. Because 2019, people never thought we need a Plan B. And now 2020, the world has changed significantly. And there you feel the need of Plan B. And I get the same people now telling me, we are so looking forward to the book. It's the perfect timing. You know, it's like the world understands it needs a Plan B, which is fair. Right? But I do think it doesn't matter what situation you're in, you always need a Plan B. That's just how the cookie crumbles.
And you know, sometimes you can't foresee a COVID-19 in your Plan B or C or whatever you put into place, right? But what you can put into is that you're willing to make the changes that are necessary to continue on. I think that's, you know, we've all got to be open to that. You know, the story that you tell about your friend whose husband lost his job is a very familiar story to me. Very, very familiar. I know a lot of people in that position, especially today, but a lot of people, when they reach over, say, 55, you would think that, you know, wow, now's the perfect time. Your brain is really working. Kids are grown and gone. You're free to kind of do some more work. And you would think, oh, that would be the perfect time to hire somebody, right? A lot of world experience. And it's not. They want fresh, young, innovative people. And a lot of companies lost that balance, and they lost that experience because they decided to get rid of, you know, the what they call the extra weight, and bring in new people because maybe they cost less money, new ideas and things like that. When the industries took that decision and moved that way, they lost so much experience that there was a big gap. Okay. But to ask someone who's worked for, and I know this from experience, okay, to ask someone who has put 35 years into one company or one job, you know, sometimes the companies change, right? Yeah. The job didn't, but the companies got bought out. But one resume item and ask them to do something else is almost, it's horrifying. Yeah. It's terrifying. Not everybody has that mentality of being able to move and shift. Yeah. Not everybody has the mentality to stay in one place either. So to hear your book, because I'm sure you probably wrote on this a little bit, I'm looking forward to it, because this is a problem that we have today.
Definitely. And I think what I do want to definitely tell through this forum, and I'm definitely mentioning it in the book, is there are two things about having a plan that we need to know. One is having a master plan about your life, what you want to do, where you want to go, what you want to achieve. And that to reach that master plan, you need small actionable plans that help you reach. So for example, you want to become, say, the biggest TV channel in the world. That's the master plan. But to reach there, you need actionable plans. You need shows and stuff that makes you reach there. However, when you see a show is not working, that's where you need a plan B to get something new, a fresh content, fresh idea that will take this, that will make a new actionable plan and help you reach the master plan. So plan B does not mean completely change your master plan. It means to amend and adapt your actionable, tangible plans today so that you can reach that that long-standing master plan of yours.
That's
No, I completely agree. I think it's more about optimizing your plans and making or adding a lot of elements to it. So make sure that we are dynamically accepting it, and rather than having a static plan, we should go for a dynamic thing. And during the period, whatever situations and whatever circumstances are there, we should be able to manage those and move forward.
Because something like so, for example, I know from a colleague who works for a smaller company who was very much against work from home. They were like, okay, we are 20 people, we are a close-knit family, we all come to office, whatever it is.
Okay.
We will not work from home. That rigidity, that no, we like this camaraderie, we like this bonding and everything. And when the COVID happened and people were forced to stay at home, they struggled because they could not adapt that fast to the working from home, with laptops and everything. So the thing is, we have to make these contingency plans and stuff. It will cause discomfort. It will cause actually one of the things I say it will. It's like you have to make time and space for it. It will be hurting you a little maybe, but in the long run, it will guard you from bigger pains and troubles.
No, that's interesting to know. Jim, I think you had something to say, and I wanted to ask you, because you're a chess player, chess master, but having that 3-step moves ahead is very important, right? Knowing, and share a little bit about that, because that falls right into the Plan B program.
Well, in chess, and it's in analog for life, because it's a series of adjustments. Whatever has happened to me in my life, whatever I've planned, I've had to make adjustments. And so nothing has ever unfolded the way I expect it to unfold. And so I've always had to adjust. But in chess, we always have the saying, even a bad plan is better than no plan at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
you agree, Saby? That's great.
Yes, for sure. I fully agree to that.
Okay.
Yeah. And the calculations, when you're playing chess, there's another person that you're playing with. And so your best plan might have to be altered by their moves. Because I want to attack his king, but he's attacking mine. Oh my goodness. I have to adjust. So I have to defend as well as attack, and then he might do something that I didn't expect at all. And then I have to adjust to that. And I might be able to surprise the player I'm playing against. And then they have to adjust. And who adjusts best usually ends up the victor.
Absolutely.
And it's a constant series of adjustments, because rarely in a game of chess does everything unfold the way you planned it.
I fully agree. And having, when you have a bad plan, you can win or you can lose. But if you have no plan, you'll definitely lose. So, that's just...
in fact,
even a bad plan.
So there are a lot of stand-up comedians in India and around the world. So what happens is that they have a plan that they will showcase this to the audience, but based on the reaction, they have to change the plan.
Yes.
And then a lot of people are not able to do it because they don't know how to manage with the audience, and that's what happens as well. Because sometimes audience boo you and a lot of things happening, so you have to keep on changing and make sure you keep the engagement going, and that's what a good planner do basically. So they're prepared for all the options and they're ready for all those accessories and humor in their
and also for public speaking, I think we Kimberly, please help me if you think otherwise, but we also have to constantly adapt to the audience's feel. Things like I said, the temperature of the room. Like I give you an example. I was speaking in Switzerland last week, and it was a bit informal association in the evening, and they ordered pizza as I was speaking, and I saw, between a speaker and food, people choose food. That's just how the world works. The moment the pizza comes in, everybody's like, pizza.
No one cares what you're saying.
So and here I am. I'm hungry as well, and I'm like, what do I do? So I pause and I say, please leave a piece for me as well, because I'll be hungry as well. And they laugh. And that's how I give them a few seconds to collect the pizza, and then I continue. So that these things happen. There are sometimes noises that are not in control, microphone not working, things not happening. These are just happens. And we have a saying in public speaking is tragedy plus time is equal to comedy. So something bad that's happened to you plus time, when you give it time, it becomes a joke, it becomes a humor. You can, like what Kimberly did today with the microphone always going kaput when she's on stage. That's, I'm sure when it happened she was not happy, but you can make a joke about it and make us all smile.
Yeah,
right. And
absolutely.
that's the thing. And many times, and correct me if I'm wrong, you get on the stage and you realize this audience ain't into my talk. Nope. And they're very forgiving, but pivoting, having an alternative to your talk, and that not just knowing your subject, but changing. Yeah, and I've done this many times. I'll have a pitch deck, and I go, this audience, this isn't for this audience. And my team will go, oh no, there she goes. And I go, I shut the pitch deck off and just go off on a tangent. Let's talk about this. It's a lot more humanistic than here's my pitch deck, right? It's
and also
so
cultural aspect of it, and because I'm in Europe, I had the chance to speak in few countries, and I see the level of engagement is so different. I think people ask me what was the toughest speech I ever had to do. And I say my toughest speech was at 2 p.m. in Malaga, that was south of Spain. So you know how the Spanish love the siesta. Yes. So after lunch, which also includes wine and some drinks and really nice food. Like, in Netherlands, we just eat sandwiches and bread. There, the food is quite lavish, 2-hour lunch. And then they are in a mood to doze off. And here I am coming with like tsunami of energy, talking about a topic like diversity, which is very close to my heart. And I think it's a very essential topic. And I think, okay, this audience is not listening. So I have to get this audience grooving. How do I do that? So play a little game, make some insider comments, talk about what the Spanish love. So talk about wine or food or something and get them grooving, and then talk about more serious stuff.
Talk about the wine and food first. Did you enjoy it? I mean, why did you see me some? Where's mine?
Of course, the wine is always helps. Doesn't matter which part of the world you are in. When in doubt, always wine. That helps.
Oh,
especially in Spain.
Yes, absolutely. Well, actually, the Italians also.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And also, I think wine goes well with pizza as well for Italians and a lot of European countries, because they have wine with the pizza.
Yeah.
Wine goes with everything. It goes with chocolate if you pair it right. So even white wine
goes with breakfast.
Right, white wine goes with white chocolate. A lot of people don't know that, but it's really kind of a good combo. So no, but you're right. When in doubt, you throw in some wine and everybody's happy. The one of the toughest ones I was at, it was I get caught into these all-day events, and there was no water.
Oh.
And I didn't bring my water. There was no place for me to go to get water. And I think there was a water fountain somewhere, but I just didn't travel all the way to the water fountain and back, right? And I got totally dehydrated that day, like really, really bad. And I think that was probably one of my worst moments, because I was getting sick from being that dehydrated, and ended up with the EMTs coming to visit me. So I always make sure I take a bottle of water, even no matter what.
I do that too, because some places, it has happened to me, you don't get water in room temperature, the icy cold water, which is really bad to have just before you go on stage.
It is very bad.
I would not want to have that. So I either have to have a tea or a very chilled water, and I don't want either. I just want plain water. So water, a clicker. These are the two things.
And your own mic.
Wow, I didn't go that far.
These are the horror stories.
The clicker and water are always I carry with me, because these are they are game changers.
Well, tell me about the clicker. What do you use the clicker for?
The clicker, if I'm using slides, to change slides.
Your own clicker.
Because sometimes if many events they don't have their own clicker or it's not working, then you need to really tell someone, okay, can you go next slide? It really breaks the rhythm. And if it's a podium, somebody sitting down and clicking for you, or somebody, or you have to do it from the computer.
I got you.
Very inconvenient, and it really disrupts the flow. And
No,
Yeah,
that's
basically controlling the event as well, because if you have a clicker, then you can control that event in the slide because you know how to manage it out, and you're not dependent on others. But Sabyasachi, apart from all those experiences, we'll talk about Netherlands and your experiencing with the banking industry, because you are working in the banking industry for the past 10 years or so. So how was working with Netherlands, and what will be the change post-COVID in that country?
I think every crisis brings change. I think I started in the banking sector in 2008, in 2007 in India actually. My first job was at the Lehman Brothers. I was working there in Mumbai. So in 1 year, shut us down, and we had to deal with that situation. And I worked very briefly for a back office work for Credit Suisse and also in Singapore. And then I moved to Netherlands. Things have changed quite drastically, but the COVID was a very sudden. And so the funny thing is, every organization in Europe, especially Netherlands and banking, went through a lot of planning from 2016, 2020 plan, the plans they want to have, the vision and the mission they had for 2020. But nobody saw 2020 to be this destructive and this crazy. And now everybody is trying to adapt to that. I think banking sector itself is not feeling any heat yet. I mean, you see losses and decline in profits, that's there. But I think what aviation feels right now, aviation, tourism, those industries, how they have been so badly affected, we still don't feel. But we all are interdependent on each other. So when you see effects on these sectors, there will be some damages that will happen on the financial sector.
They can't pay back loan.
Sorry, absolutely. Mortgages will, when people cannot pay their mortgages, or large corporates going bankrupt, which is happening so many times. I mean, I was talking to a friend this morning who was supposed to go to Portugal in airlines that got bankrupt. So that's happening a lot. So the cascading effect is not yet felt, but I think there will be an effect. I think it will be up to now the leadership and all the soundness of the banking system to withstand this crisis or not. I'm hopeful and confident that we can absorb this as much as we can, but again, we have not yet hit the rock bottom of this crisis. We are all thinking that we will have a vaccine and everything will be solved, but we are 7 months now in this, or 8 months in this COVID period, and we have not yet hit the rock bottom. Unlike previous crises that we have seen, let's say 2008, when Lehman Brothers went down, it was the lowest point that month. And then from there, very slowly, things were going up. Things were not going down. Right now, it feels a little bit of a free fall. We don't know where things will stop. I mean, the thing is also for students. I mean, see, when there was a crisis, students would find it difficult to find jobs and stuff. Now it's a situation, nobody's even willing to meet you for a coffee and discuss and help you. So it's not just a professional scare, it's a health scare, personal scare. There's so much scare going on. At least the toilet paper scare has gone down, thank you. But,
there are so many things, like you're saying, this fear, and I think it's because there was no experience or expertise to guide us through this that was put into place, especially in the U.S. We fired all of that, and we were not
no leadership.
So we didn't have that pandemic team that we had for years that was ready to catch us if we fall. Other countries had their pandemic team; they're doing well. But you're talking about the ripple effect, and you're right. We have not felt the final impact, which is scary. It's very, very scary. I sit right now as comfortable as I can and cushioned into my own home. But like you're talking about, there are no jobs. There are no jobs for people at certain ages to go get. There's no income. Very few people benefited from the stimulus package here in the United States. And they're going to allow foreclosures are going to start this month. Probably Jim, do you know when the law switched and they were not allowed to do any foreclosures through the month of July, but they are going to start allowing the banks to do foreclosures in the month of August, which
that's as of August 7th. Wait until August. Okay. We don't know.
And when foreclosures start, everything falls apart. It's like the house prices will go down. That's when we end up in a subprime kind of crisis mode again.
Yes.
Well, and so
I think in US as well, and that's why things are a little different because of election year in US. But Kim, when we talk about leadership, we have one of the leaders of Netherlands on our network. So would you like to discuss with Sabyasachi about the king?
Yeah, let's talk about how do you feel because of where you're at? How do you feel how things are being managed?
I think Netherlands is quite relaxed, aware, and firm in its decision making. The government, at least. So there was never a very hard lockdown where we were not allowed to go out and everything. It was an intelligent lockdown. So we were allowed to be on the streets, do exercise, even meet friends at the park with social distancing. So what it did was the virus numbers went down. At the same time, I think the mental health and the other factors that really affect you badly when you're stuck in a house, like what happened in Italy and Spain, that did not happen. However, we do see the numbers going up because we are we open the borders, the tourism is happening, the restaurants, bars are open because the lockdown is not sustainable for a very, very long time. But the thing is, like I said, the leadership here, it is not, it's a very flexible country that adapts to changes quite fast. And we are firm. I mean, the government will never paint a rosy picture. We'll be fine. They'll just give you, the Dutch directness, as it's known as. They'll give you this is what's happening. This is what we will think happen. This might happen if you don't listen to us. Choice is yours. So that's like bam, bam, bam. So people are in general law abiding, which is a good thing. So we did see the numbers go down quite low. We did see the numbers go up now again last week, but that's happening all over Europe right now because of the summer holidays and everything. And also people are getting tired of just not meeting and, but I definitely would like to compliment the leadership of Netherlands because they have been, like I said, very clear, open, honest, firm, but not very strict on this thing. They took measures that I think the Prime Minister once said to the people here that you do enough so that we don't have to do a lot. So they encouraged us to follow the protocols and the norms so they don't have to impose harsher lockdowns and things. And I think people responded very well to that. And as a result, we had a better lockdown situation than many countries. I mean, I was happy I could go and run every second day on the streets of Amsterdam. So that was very nice. Or take my cycle out and bike in the parks.
I have to say, I'm very jealous.
It just sounds so lovely, and I want to come to the Netherlands. I've interviewed the Prince of Netherlands, Prince Constantine. He's been on my show 2 times, and he's so wonderful. Well, he's got the program there called Startup Delta.
Yeah.
So his legacy to his country is to build the economy and build it strong. And part of that is to help people start their own companies. Mm-hmm. And so he's been doing this. Are you familiar? I mean, I'm sure you know who he is, right? Yeah, that's interviewing.
Yes. I don't know him by face. But it is a country where startups are very encouraged. I mean, a lot of people venture into startups and prosper quite a bit. I mean, I think big institute companies or banks and everything also encourage their employees to have that startup feel and feel ownership towards something small or big they want to do. And really encourage that entrepreneurial element in it, which is great. I think that is the reason why I get the liberty and encouragement to do all this public speaking gigs that I do and also write the book. So that I think the climate and the positive energy that the Netherlands brings.
Look at you.
I got to pin so he's very, very, very nice. One of the things I love,
like Christopher Reeve.
about the Netherlands,
he looks like
he does, doesn't he? Yeah, he does. Well, he's got that spirit too, right? He's just got that very but dignified. And it's really interesting because his PR rep would tell me, you only get 10 or 15 minutes with him. He's so booked, but yet he would sit down and give 30 minutes, right? Because he just wanted to share what his people were doing on TV. And he was just so proud of his people. And I was able to interview a lot of his startups. I wish I could do all of them, but we were able to interview. He would line them up for me and have them come and interview with us. And they were just so wonderful. I mean, like, he does so much for them, right? They all had really, really, and I thought, wow, this country is just so wonderful. I have got to come see it. I mean, you've been there a long time, right? You've been there.
I have been 10 years in the Netherlands. I mean, Amsterdam is home. It is really, I'm so happy I'm here. I mean, every time I go on holiday anywhere, when I come back to Amsterdam, I feel like I love it, because the thing is, the things are super organized here. Everything is on time, yet it's not very uptight. It's very relaxed. It's easygoing. Everybody, my day gets brightened when I take the tram and the driver smiles at me and wishes me good morning. Everybody I bump into, whether a stranger or the people who's just collecting trash or who's opening the restaurant, will smile at you, wish you a good day. That's such a positive feeling to the adds to the day, and also when I'm coming home, everybody will similarly greet you, wish you a good evening. That's just like that's so normal. And yet it is not normal in many parts of the world, where people just mind their own business, put on headphones and don't care about anybody who's around you. So that's something really I think I love about Netherlands.
Yes.
Wow, that sounds beautiful, Jim. That sounds like a great place to move to. Yeah.
I'm a big endorsee of Netherlands. I won't be surprised soon if the Dutch government makes me the brand ambassador of Netherlands.
There you go.
So Kim, I think
head of the Chamber of Commerce.
Huh?
I was going to say you should be the head of the Chamber of Commerce, if not the ambassador.
Go head of the Chamber of Commerce. What are you doing now that there's COVID set in place? Are you still engaged in the banking industry in many ways, or are you kind of branching out and doing your own thing?
Well, I think book is a demanding job, and it is now in the review editing phase, which is very time consuming. And I'm also involved with this for now almost 1.5 to 2 years. I also want to get done with it. You're at that phase. Okay.
Absolutely.
I put the timeline. I want to really publish it on the 22nd of October. So 76 days from now. So I'm really working against the clock. I'm working, the bank job is definitely there. I'm really working 5 days a week there. And it is getting busier because, well, now it's a little quieter because it's summer holidays, people are on holidays and stuff, but it is generally quite busy. We have a lot of meetings. I do miss the in-person interaction with colleagues because it just adds so much spunk to your life when you have a coffee. We spend so much time with colleagues. I mean, I spend every day 8, 9 hours with them. They are the people I talk to when I have a problem or a crisis or I'm upset with anything. And like, exactly. So I miss that, that kind of interaction, that kind of candid interaction when you can have with colleagues and stuff. So that I miss, and I hope we return to normal soon. But at the same time, we work-wise, it's getting busier, and like I said, in the financial sector, we are all prepared for any cascading effect that can happen on the sector, but we don't feel it as badly as other sectors feel. But everybody in the financial sector, especially the ones who have worked before 2007, knows the pain of a crisis in banks and financial sector. So we are very aware, I would say somewhat ready, and maybe sometimes even anxious about it. But ever I meet an anxious colleague, I have one suggestion from them: have a plan B.
Don't worry about me. I got my backup. At least have your book, right?
Yeah.
But let's engage in that. I mean, you're in the Netherlands. It's a beautiful place. What has lockdown been like? What are the procedures? Did you lock down? I mean, I haven't had a chance to talk with the prince since all of this happened. I asked him to come on our show, but he's been too busy. Of course, he's been too busy. Because he told me, this is what he told me, whatever you're reading in the media, it's not as easy for us. We're working really, really hard. Apparently the media was painting it to look like, oh, everything's great and rosy. And he was having to deal with putting out a lot of fires and making sure the people were safe. His people were first. And, he expressed his concerns about the way our country was handling things. He wasn't putting us down, but just concerns. And and he wasn't mad at me, right? But just, we leaders have to be taking better control of things. But how do you feel? I mean, you've been very happy with the Netherlands. You said but you're talking about plan B, our next stage, what's going to happen, normal again, back to normal again.
Mm-hmm.
But what are the procedures that the Netherlands are doing that make you feel like it's
one thing I said, and I want to say it again. The one thing that really helped us people living in the Netherlands is clear communication. Whenever we received official communication from the Prime Minister or any health minister, or through the website that updates the COVID-related situation, it has been very clear and with very tangible things what we need to do. So you can ask anybody in the country right now what is allowed and what is not allowed. Everybody knows. We know that, okay, the bars and cafes are now open, but you still need to keep distance. You need to register. You need to you can have events indoor up to 100 people. I think they might change that. Outdoor, there is no restriction, but you have to keep social distancing. So and it has gradually opened up. And whenever we had the communication, it was very clear. So there was no out of doubt in anybody's head, no ambiguity. Can we do this and can we do that? I think that's where a lot of times things go wrong, especially in crisis.
I'm so jealous. I'm so jealous.
Jim, I think we talk about this thing in US. I think for Netherlands, this is the best phrase: live and let live. Because when we talk about other countries, it's like pointing fingers to each other. That's how.
And nobody, like, of course there were people who had different views on how the government was handling. And in a democracy, it is actually a welcome thing to have opinions of other people who do not always agree with what government is saying or something. Not everything I agreed myself, but what I did, so that is fine. But what was good is that the clarity was good, and when there is a rule, most people followed. I mean, I did read the news that most people in Netherlands were following the social distancing, were following the no handshake rules. We still don't know. We are a country of 3 kisses, in the cheeks. From there, we have we are completely went down to the elbow, which is still a slight awkward way of greeting someone. But hey, desperate times, desperate measures.
Yes. Well, I've got to ask you a couple of questions. One is, if the election here in the United States goes a different way, then I hope it does. My wife and I were thinking, where could we move to? And the one place we agreed on was Amsterdam, and Holland, because we've both been there and we just love the atmosphere there, and so we think we could make a life there. But the other thing I wanted to go back to these. Dreadful time of 2007, and I spent a lot of time studying what was going on, and I saw what was happening with the mortgages, and I saw what the banking industry was doing, and I got out of stocks and I got into corporate bonds. And can you guess what one of the corporate bonds that I bought?
Lehman Brothers?
Yes. So I had good planning, but even good
guess. Good guess.
The first rule of investments: never put all eggs in one basket.
No, it was only one of the corporate bonds that I bought.
Okay, the other was AIG and Bear Stearns, right?
Yeah. No, Lehman was the only one I took a big hit on.
Oh,
but
Jim, how did Lehman Brothers go for you? How did that work for you? Anyway,
it didn't work out so well.
did you get any of your money back?
No.
I think the
Okay.
liquidation
Well,
is still.
Mike, I think you missed the main part of the conversation too. Is Saby? That was where he began his career with Lehman
Oh,
Brothers.
with Lehman Brothers?
I
That
worked
year.
in Lehman in 2007. There was this whole new era of back office where a big chunk of the work was done from India, and I was supporting the UK operations. So I was doing that in Lehman. I joined in 2007, and I can tell you when we had introduction.
What a good year to join Lehman
Well,
Brothers.
actually, I still saw 6 months of prosperity. If I'm honest, I
Right.
did see I knew people who if you win the best team award, people have gone on holiday to Hong Kong and stuff. Bonuses were still there.
Right.
There were a lot of the perks were still there, and it did not gradually fall. It just fell one fine day. So
Right.
there was never.
I thought they were too big to fail. But
We
I
all
was-
think so. We all think so.
Who do you work for right now? What company do
I
you
work for a Dutch bank called ABN AMRO.
Okay. Is that an investment bank then?
No, it's a Dutch mortgage bank, but we also into private banking.
Okay.
It's yeah.
How many what's the asset under management structure? How much assets do you guys?
I don't remember on top of my head.
Okay. I'll have to go research that.
Yes.
He's on a need-to-know basis.
But I know
need-to-know
that
basis.
Indian Amro Bank is also available in India as well, apart from other countries. So it's one of the top banks in India as well. ABN
really?
AMRO.
Actually, I don't think ABN AMRO is there in India. It used to be, but then it was bought by RBS, and then
I know that.
RBS,
That's what I'm saying. I mean, it was there, but now they merged it to RBS now.
yeah, RBS. I don't think RBS is also there in India. They sold it to, I think, something Kotak or something. I'm not sure
What happened is that I mean, because of a lot of banking licenses, now we are consolidating and we are making like 10 top banks, and then we are get rid of all the small bankings basically. So that's what's happening. So there are a lot of mergers and a lot of things going on in the banking industry.
Is that what's happening in India, Ankit?
Yeah.
The merger.
In fact, a lot of like public banks, like 7 or 10 public banks, come out together and they form like 3 banks now. So out
Really?
of 7, now there are 3 banks.
I think it is the idea, but by the time that happens, will take a time because it is. I don't know how easy or difficult that is to do that because there's a lot of dynamics involved into those things.
No, so but Saby, you know that I mean in India, it's nothing is difficult. We can get everything done at one day. We just have to
Do everything in one day.
everything goes to the back end actually, basically. So we, I mean, it's not that difficult. Once paper is signed, that means it's done basically.
So the thing is, you're basically scaling. They call it scaling your banking industry. You know,
It's basically consolidating so that the RBI, which is the Bank of India, can control the bank because right now they're going out of way and they're creating a new banking policy. So I think it's because of that they're working it out.
Yeah, because here we have a lot of banks, but then there's some of them that are really big. Then we got community banks, we have savings and loan associations, we have insurance companies, we have a lot of places where assets are being held. There's also what they call money managers that hold assets under management. That's one reason I was asking what's your asset under management handle on that. So the financial services industry is really huge in the United States. I actually work in the area of pensions, which is an interesting area where we hold clients' pensions funds, and most of our companies we work with, I think One America has 79 billion. American National has 32 billion. Principal has 500 billion. Now I think it moved up to 700 billion. They were putting out these Bs. They're not in the trillions yet, where the tech companies are, but they still hold a significant amount of assets and significant amount of people's pension funds.
Nick, did you really say that pensions were interesting?
Well, that's the area that I've worked exclusively for 20 years, and probably have counseled about 500 million, almost $1 billion in assets that we've worked with over the last 20 years. So we're really considered a small, in the United States, we're considered a small micro market, with less than 1 billion, that you counsel, as opposed to if you're over $1 billion, like Dennis, who we met, but he does general asset under management, then you're still small, but you're not micro small. The ones that are big or players are really 30 billion and up. I mean, that's just the name of the game over here. It's like you count everything's in the billions of dollars. It's just amazing how many assets are being held. But we are looking, and so we have to watch the markets all the time. You know what's going on, because it could affect our industry. And one thing I think that Ankit brought up and we're watching is the potential for mortgage defaults. And you said you're in the mortgage industry, because there are 40 million people in this country right now that are in danger of losing their homes if the government doesn't pass a bill very quickly.
Kimberly brought that up earlier, right?
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, way I see it, because in 2008, we were managing about 300 plans. We probably had about 300 to 400 million. The market went down in 2008, which you recall if you worked at Lehman Brothers, but we had them all in fixed instruments. So we actually went up 4.5%, counter to the market going down. But our clients ran into tremendous amounts of problems because of the market meltdown in 2008. And I'm looking at right now, and so a lot of our internally, we're holding a lot of cash everywhere, put cash everywhere, because if this meltdown takes place, it didn't look too good in 2009. You know what I mean? For everybody, unless you're holding a large cash position. So with the bank, are you holding a lot in cash right now in reserves, or are you?
Me?
Yeah.
I think we definitely do, but to what extent, I don't really remember. I did these numbers better when I was working for Treasury, but I moved to a different sector now in the bank. I'm
Right.
in the private sector. But we do maintain like liquidity buffer and stuff, which is quite mandatory things for us to have.
Yeah. See, in the insurance industry, and people that don't follow it don't know, they just placed what they call principle-based reserves. That they changed the rules here to make sure that the reserves are monies in the event of a disaster, had to increase. And so the insurance companies this year changed all their contracts to allow more for reserves in the event a market collapse takes place, so that we don't run into this too big to fail. But even though you increase your reserves, look, if 40 million people don't pay their mortgages, everybody's going to get affected because of coronavirus. I'm sorry. And our dawdling heads in Congress need to get their act together, because they couldn't figure coronavirus out. So I think I'd figure the economy out. But if people don't pay their mortgages, then what happens is that, or they don't even pay their rent, then the mortgage doesn't get paid, then the banks don't get paid, then what happens? It's a domino effect, and then failures just take place all over, and you create more unemployment, more problems. So
you're too young to know the domino effect.
The domino effect?
It's been around a while, but to me, there could have been some solutions to this. All they're doing is creating, instead of indentured slaves in our country, now they're creating people who will have to, respond. They won't have any means of money or income. They're losing their houses. There's no fallback plan. There's no plan B for what's about to happen. The ripple effect. There is no plan B, and because no matter how hard you set aside money, I like someone I know very dear to me. They had left to journey into something, saved up all their money to go there, and got stuck there during COVID, and had to spend all of their money. Because they weren't able to get any subsidized type help while they were stuck. So they lost all their savings. They lost everything just trying to survive. And this, this story is over and over and over, right? You're hearing this everywhere. And so what can people do? I mean, the banks, they can't just let you get away with not paying rent, basically, or paying for your mortgage, but people aren't getting money for their rent, and those people are going to be homeless and starving. I mean, it's what'll
happen is that when these people go into foreclosure, in other words, what'll happen is very similar to 2008. Then there's opportunities. That's where I see all the opportunities for us to go out and buy their homes on the cheap, which I already did. Okay, and make a tremendous profit for moi, which I did. So I can understand that. But the thing is, I don't need these tremendous profits. I mean, it's ridiculous. What they need is their bloody home. Okay, so the thing is, for capitalists to make more profits, who gives a rat's rear? These people need their bloody homes, and that's the reason we should support that. But yes, we are prepared to go in and buy cheap houses as soon as the market collapses.
I mean, my question is they're paying out the stupid stimulus check once every 6 months that does nobody any good. I mean, wouldn't it be better just to say, okay, everybody's rent and everything's being paid for or covered, and figure out how to earn your own food, whether you go out and you sweep the streets every day or you garden, or unfortunately these small type jobs, but there's no jobs like the coffee shops are still closed. I mean, I think in our area they're kind of open, but there's just not a revenue stream being developed for a lot of these businesses whose doors are still closed.
If I may add something to that, because that's one thing I do mention in my book, that I call it being versatile. That's there are every crisis will take down jobs that will not exist, that happened in 2008, and also create new kind of jobs. So I think what a normal struggle for a lot of us who have worked for many years is to think out of the box and think out of the cookie cutter jobs that we have always known, because there are new opportunities. For example, I think a Zoom is booming. People are making money. I don't know if it happened in US or not, but the number of ads on YouTube is gone up crazy because people are spending more and more time on YouTube.
Right. And they weren't even the best at it. Zoom wasn't the best.
So now, yes, there will be people who will lose job. That will definitely happen. But there will be effect on the traditional kind of job. If you can adapt and think of streams of revenue that you can do from your house, from your home, and in innovative way, but then there will be new opportunities. I mean, what we are doing right now, we are sitting at our respective homes and having this chat show. I mean, this is a kind of adaptation. I think we all would have loved to be in a studio and do it. So we adapt to that and think out of the box and look for opportunities and revenue stream. Yes, one revenue stream will be closed, but you have to find other. And there are opportunities. There are people who will and are making money in this situation as well. You just have to be aware and have that mindset to adapt and be flexible.
Or what you do is listen to our financial guru who runs the investment show on Wednesday, who just arrived from Toronto, Sasha Starr. Sasha, tell us some of your unique investment opportunities and things that you're doing. Are you and Shaquille running an investment show together now or something? Or what's going on there?
No, not really, but he was a guest. There were supposed to be two more people. Actually, one was late, but he appeared on the show. Another one was having trouble with the internet. I think in California, there are a lot of internet troubles these days. So he couldn't make it on the show, unfortunately. But other than that, it worked just fine. We discussed different investment policy. But what's striking is that someone asked me here on IBM TV, what's happened if, there will be a collapse of market, everybody is waiting, and then what else? I mean, how you can invest in market which collapsed?
That's when you do invest. Okay, Sasha, that's when you buy. That's where all the buying opportunities. The Witch of Wall Street, which you all remember, Hetty Green. Okay, if you haven't seen her story, just Google Hetty Green. Come on, Jim, you don't even know who Hetty Green is. Yeah. Okay, Hetty Green was known as the Witch of Wall Street, the wealthiest woman in the world in the turn of the early 1900s. Her mission was to wait till, and she was cheap. She was so cheap that she wore old clothes. She didn't spend any money on anything. When her son Edward got an injury, rather than go see a doctor in his leg, she just chopped it off. Yep. I mean, that was Hetty Green. She's real cheap, but she's known as Witch of Wall Street, the wealthiest woman in the world. And what she did is she waited like a shark for the buying opportunity, and that's when the market would collapse.
Did you buy crutches for him?
No, she didn't care about him.
No?
Hey, listen, come on,
You're
Alex.
the witch.
All
called
about
him Poppy.
money. All about the money. She saved money by taking care of the leg herself. Right. There we go. Okay. The wealthiest woman in the world was one of the cheapest misers in the world. You got to read about Hetty Green. Great. Okay. Then she made so much money and she died. She died before the federal estate tax took place. So Edward received the entire fortune. All right. Edward lived like a king, the son, even though he had his leg was gone. But when he died, he didn't do no estate planning, did anything at all, and left everything was vaporized to federal estate taxes, state taxes, inheritance taxes. His kids didn't receive a dime. They lost.
That's how America got rich.
That's how America
got rich.
So the thing is, we have a very interesting historical opportunity. But for the viewers who have not and don't know about Hetty Green, Hetty, H-E-D-I Green, read about her, the Witch of Wall Street, and how she was able to make a fortune by buying stocks on the low, not on the high. So with that, how's the market doing?
That's not so good today.
The market is slightly down, not a big deal. But what's happened right now is they're trying to, it's all plan of saving private Donald. So the part of the plan is to rotate. Okay, so what can you do? You can make NVIDIA worth 5,000 a share, and Amazon will be worth 25,000 a share. No. So they want to rotate now from technical stuff to some banks, maybe some mundane, some sloppy companies, and so on. And General Electric comes in mind. Okay,
well, how is General Electric doing? One of our favorite stocks.
Yeah.
It brings good things to life. How's GE doing?
You know, I think I'm the only one person in the universe who could make in the last few months some money on General Electric.
And he did.
But I made that money.
You did a great job, Sasha. Because you told me about the trade on General Electric. Now I'm looking at it, $6.38 a share.
Oh my
You got
God.
out in time.
It's been worse. Yeah.
Yeah, I know that, but I was sitting there going like 638 because you were telling me, I bought it 650, sold it 700. You got out a couple of weeks ago and then it collapsed.
You forgetting about options.
That's right.
Yeah. Your options were covered already.
All the money on General Electric only made money on options.
If you
$200, but
yes. And for those who have just joined us, Sasha runs Investing with Sasha on Wednesday. He's an individual investor, so he's not securities licensed. So the thing is something you definitely want to watch how he follows the market as an individual investor, following it very carefully, showing how you make money on General Electric stock, getting out before it collapses, very important, getting in.
I'm waiting General Electric to become a penny stock. At $1.50 a share, I'm a buyer of General Electric.
Oh!
So that's where
to go out of business.
No, he's saying penny stock.
Yeah.
No, they have a couple of very good divisions, medical equipment division and all those engines for Boeing.
They make engines for Boeing for airplanes that aren't being produced.
Boeing doesn't need many engines. General Electric produces fantastic engines, the best in the universe.
I totally agree. If
I think we should refer to
solar systems. There are no better engines that Boeing will buy from General Electric. The only thing is that Boeing is not going to buy and General Electric is not going to sell. Okay, so that's a tragedy. But other than that, it's great. So somebody will buy this division maybe for a couple $1 million. And medical equipment is good division. So they will probably spin it off, and if not, then bankruptcy judge will take it off their balance sheet. So something will happen with this division. All the rest, garbage. Absolutely garbage. Oh my God, my license. Oh no, I don't have license. So and nobody can sue me either. I'm in Canada. So it's crazy enough to go to Canada. And
I've got one more question for Saba though. Saba, you were talking about you're talking a lot of or on a speaking tour about networking, but you're in banking. So how did those two relate?
Oh, but I think networking is like networking is, I would say, is like mathematics. You need it in every field. It's like something you cannot survive with. It's about knowing, connecting, and resonating with people. even in a banking sector, which I do think is a bit old-fashioned sometimes, especially in Europe, where it's really about knowing the right people, then you know about the right opportunities, and also get a lot of guidance in terms of coaching, mentoring. And I think that's something. I mean, networking is something that helps you, I think, in every step of the way. Even today, I would say, if I didn't know my friend Hemant, I wouldn't be doing this call. He's the one who connected me to this. So it's really about knowing the right people at the right time for the right reasons.
But I think, Sabyasachi, I think networking also teaches you that once we are connected, then we have to take that bonding forward, and then we have to connect a lot of more people in future as well, and especially from and that is also networking is all about. And I think it's time to wrap up the show. But Nick, before we wrap up, we have one more destination to do our IBM meetings, and that is Amsterdam. That is being decided by the board.
We're going to go to Amsterdam now? I've always wanted to go there. That's on the list, finally. Okay, great. Okay, I'm there as soon as COVID-19 is gone.
Checking the hotel rates right now.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to go check the hotels. I can rent a palace.
In Netherlands by hotels. I mean, if we go and shoot the hotel, we'll get some sponsorship.
There are castles there we can rent. I've already checked it out. There's Castle Altina we can rent. Yeah. It's a hostel now. We're just going to take over the rooms, take over the castle, and send IBM TV to the Netherlands.
I will welcome you guys at Schiphol. Just to thank you for this amazing welcome and warmth you gave me in this show. So thank you for doing this and giving me the podium to share my story and talk about my book. So thank you.
Come again with your book too. I cannot wait to see the book.
Yeah, we want to see the book.
And we are also coming up with a book show, so maybe you can launch our book on our.
We're going to come up with a book show.
Yeah. Love to do that.
Nick, guess what the name of the book is? Guess what?
Chess for Dummies.
No.
Investing for Dummies.
No, it's something you and I always have. Plan B.
Oh, Plan B. You definitely need a Plan B. Is that really the name of the book?
That is.
What's your Plan B?
What's your Plan B? That's a great title. I'm sold already. I'm buying it because you got to have Plan B, baby.
Yes, pre-sales always helps the writer. Thank you so much, guys.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you
for joining us today. And it's time to wrap up. Before we wrap up, do join us tomorrow on our spiritual Saturday shows, and then musical shows starting at 12 noon EST. And thank you very much. And it's time to wrap up. And thank you, Sabyasachi, for joining us. And we look forward to working with you. Take care and bye-bye.
Bye-bye.